Yeah, so all participants, welcome back. So we are now going to start the third session. Basically, it will be the topic will be communication between IoT sensor devices, taken by Dr. Arun Raj Kumar P. So we have Professor here. So over to you, sir, Dr. Arun Raj Kumar.
Yeah, thank you. So good afternoon to all. So this session now will be handled. So will be demonstrated by Sharad Babu. He's a PhD scholar, so working in the area of multicast communication in vehicle networks. So can you just share the screen? So can you just share? Yeah, the entire screen. Okay, this one. Yeah, so you can proceed.
Is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible. Yeah.
Okay, very good afternoon to all. I am Sharad Babu, doing PhD under Dr. Arun Raj Kumar sir. Today, I am going to handle this section, the basic communication between IoT sensor device with a small demo. And as we know, nowadays, every electronic device are going to connect to internet and collect data and share data and operate it and control everything through internet. And that is called IoT, Internet of Things. Internet of Things is becoming a very interesting research topic. The researchers always need to conduct real-time or simulation experiments using some tools. So now what we are going to do is we are going to explain how the IoT sensors or IoT experiment can be conducted using some small scale low cost devices. For that, for conducting real-time IoT experiments, we need a computing device with some network interfaces. It can be wireless or wired, but mostly preferring is wireless devices. Nowadays, we are mostly using devices or movable devices, so we need some wireless connectivity to every device. So for that, we are choosing a device called Raspberry Pi. That is very useful device. Means it is low cost. That is the main feature of that device. It is low cost and a single board computer. We can use just like a computer. And it was developed by UK. And it can be used from very small school level projects to very advanced projects like robotics and other kind of research project. We can use these kind of devices. So these Raspberry Pis are very useful for conducting network experiments also. Now we are going to take a look at the parts of Raspberry Pi. This is a Raspberry Pi device. I think you all already know this device. This is the board of the Raspberry Pi device. I already said this is a single board device, single board computing device, and everything is attached to the device. It having a processing unit and a memory inside that. And along with that, it having this is the power port. This we have to give power to the micro USB. This is the micro USB you have to give power. It is accepting 5 volt DC. And then this is the HDMI port we have. If we need to connect to the monitor, we can connect the device through this cable, this port. This is the HDMI port. And this device having 4 USB port, we can connect even our mouse, keyboard, etc. We can connect the USB devices. We can connect through these 2 ports. Actually, we have 4 USB ports here, and there are 2 network interfaces are available with this. One is Ethernet port. This is the Ethernet port for the Raspberry Pi, and one more interface is there. That is wireless interface is attached with this. Then one interacting feature of this Raspberry Pi is this set of 40 serial general purpose input output pins. These are 40 numbers are there. These input pins help us to connect this Raspberry Pi to sensor devices. Later, I will show you how we can connect these devices and all. These are the basic hardware of the Raspberry Pi. Now, we didn't talk about anything regarding the hardware. Means there is no secondary memory we didn't mention. There is no inbuilt secondary memory, but there is a card slot is available here. If we need to insert some, if we need to install OS in a memory card, and if we need to open it, we need to install a memory card, OS. We need to install a OS in memory card, and we need to insert in this field. This is a micro SD card slot. Now, actually, this is a hardware part. This is just a hardware part. We need some operating system to work. Now, I'm going to discuss this, how we can actually, the Raspberry Pi is just what we learned. This up to this is just a hardware. This is not describing anything about the operating system or anything. We need to install some operating system into this hardware. For that, there are more than 20 operating systems nowadays supporting the Raspberry Pi. But they are in the Raspberry Pi itself, they are officially supported operating systems also available. Every year they are means modifying their operating system, and they are providing very good operating system. Their operating system is called Raspberry Pi OS. Previously it was known as, means 2020 it was named as Raspbian OS. Till that moment it was known as Raspbian OS. Now it is known as Raspberry Pi OS. And for installing Raspberry Pi, we have to install the Raspberry Pi into a SD card, and then we need to insert the SD card into the Raspberry Pi. For first of all, what we need to do is we have to install the Raspberry Pi into the memory card. That is our first task. For that, what we need to do is their Raspberry Pi Imager software they are providing. They are providing a software called Raspberry Pi Imager. That is just like a startup disk creator in Ubuntu. We can just create, first of all, we need to install the Raspberry Pi Imager software into our laptop. For that, actually, Raspberry Pi is providing a website. Their website name is called Raspberry Pi OS. Can you see this? Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay, they are providing a Raspberry Pi software, www.raspberrypi.com. Then next thing, they are describing about something, and they are providing the Imager software. This is the Imager software. From here, we can download the Imager software, and we need to install the Imager software into our system first. That is our first task. Once we install the Imager software, I will show you. This is the Imager software. Okay, first, I already said we need a memory card. This is the memory card I have taken, and this is the memory card adapter. And I am going to insert the memory card into the adapter, and just I am going to insert the memory card into my laptop. Now it is installed. Okay, then there are two options the Raspberry Pi Imager is showing. One is choose OS and the storage. First of all, we are going to choose the operating system. There are many options are available. The first Raspberry Pi OS 32-bit, and this is the recommended one by them. And it was the latest one. You can see here, 2021 October it is released. This is the latest one. That's why they are always the latest one will be shown the first option. And then there are many other options. Raspberry Pi OS others means that the previous version, if we need the previous versions of Raspberry Pi OS, we can download it from here. And then other OS also available. Suppose if we already downloaded the operating system into our system, the image file we already downloaded, we can go for that. We can select from our system. In other case, it will be downloading from the internet. Suppose if I'm selecting here, now I selected the recommended version, the latest version I have selected, and now I am going to choose the memory card. This is the memory card I inserted into my laptop. Once we selected the operating system and the storage, it will show a write option. Now I'm not going to write because it will take 5 to 10 minutes. I already write some operating system in my system, in my memory card. This is the written operating system. This is the memory card I used to write the operating system. Now this is removed. And this is the memory card. I already installed OS in this, and I need to insert the memory card into the card slot of the Raspberry Pi. Okay. After that, we need to go for the connectivity. What are the possible way we can connect it to a Raspberry Pi? There are 3 methods we can generally connect a Raspberry Pi. The first option is we can give power to the Raspberry Pi using some USB. This USB I have connected to my laptop, and micro USB I have connected, and its power is on. And I am using a HDMI cable here, cable for connecting to the monitor. Now this is the cable for keyboard, and mouse I have connected here. Now the operating system is ready to use. That system is ready to use, and we can just use just like a computer. This is the operating system we have installed into the Raspberry Pi. Now our next choice is we need to, there are 2 other options also. Well, if we don't have a separate monitor and a keyboard, then we can go for other options. There are 2 options are available. That options are known as headless mode. We can, I already said there are 2 network interface available. One is wireless and other one is wired. We can connect the Raspberry Pi through SSH communication. For that, first we need to enable the SSH. For that, we need to go for the main menu of the Raspberry Pi. Then from there, preference option is there. In preference option, there is a Raspberry Pi configuration option is there. In Raspberry Pi configuration, there are many options are available. Means display, system, interface. There are many options are available here. If we need to fix password, we can fix password here. The host name of the Raspberry Pi is here, and my requirement is I need to enable the SSH first. SSH is coming under network interface, so it is coming under interface option, and now I already enabled the option. When you are switching on the enable option, you must go for a reboot. Then only the change will be reflected in the operating system. Now I am going to show you the easiest way of connecting the Raspberry Pi. For that, we need a Ethernet cable. One end of the Ethernet cable, I am going to connect it to the one end of the Ethernet port of the Raspberry Pi, and the other end I am going to connect it to my laptop port. Now, what we can do is we can SSH into the system. We can remotely access into the system. That is SSH space. Now we don't know the IP address of the Pi. We can go to . Pi. Now I don't know the IP address of the Raspberry Pi. That's why I'm giving Raspberry Pi dot local, because it is connected to the local port of the device, of our device, of our laptop. Okay, now it is asking password for the Pi. I have given Pi as the password to all the operating system. Now I can log into the system. Then I can just check if config or something. If config is showing the network configuration of the device. It is showing the network configuration. Now if we want to edit some files or something, we can just use the Vim editor or Nano editor to edit these files. We can everything we can use through commands, because the terminal of the device is we are accessing through the SSH connection. Just like Linux, we can use everything. This is one method. The next method, we have to connect our Raspberry Pi and the laptop into. Now I am going to remove this. Okay. Now I am going to remove the Ethernet connection. Now the next option is we need to connect through Wi-Fi. Wireless interface we are going to connect. For that, I'm not going to use anything. For that, first of all, I need to connect First, I need to connect my device with some router. I have taken one router here. I'm going to connect the device to router. My router name, the router name is sh. I connected. Then now I'm going to connect my laptop also with the router sh. Okay, now it is connected, and we can take the terminal. Okay, similarly, first I will check the IP address of the device. For knowing the IP address and other configuration, we can check if config. Yeah, the router given the IP address. I think the router gives 192.168.1.2. That is the IP address given by the router. Now what I am going to do is I am going to SSH to the device using that IP address. For that, I am going to type SSH space pi at 192.168.1.2 is the IP they have given. Then I can just log in. This is the last method. This may be also we can log into our system. Means we can access the terminal of the Raspberry Pi and we can do whatever programming or anything what we require. These are the three possible way of connecting our Raspberry Pi with a system. And now I'm going to discuss some interesting things, how we can connect a Raspberry Pi to some sensors, or how to collect data, how to send the data. That part I'm going to check. For that, first of all, I need to enable the serial port of the Raspberry Pi. The serial port also coming under interface option. So I am going to the preference menu. From there, I am going to Raspberry Pi configuration. in Raspberry Pi configuration, there are in interface there are many options. Such we already enabled. Then there is this is the serial port. If we are enabling the serial port, that 40 pins enabled. Okay, once we enable some of the serial port, it will ask for rebooting, because once we enable, then only that changes will be reflected. Now I am enable the serial port of the Raspberry Pi. Once we enable the serial port of the Raspberry Pi, we can just go for the connectivity of the Raspberry Pi. We can connect any kind of sensor devices into the Raspberry Pi. First of all, we need to know the pins. What are the purpose of the pins that used in Raspberry Pi? First, we need to know the pin diagram. Means first, this is the pin diagram. If we don't want to memorize the pin diagram, we can. If we don't know the pin diagram, we can just ask to the Raspberry Pi. Ask to the Raspberry Pi using the command pin out. Okay, we can ask to the Raspberry Pi about the pin out. It will show you the entire features. This is the pin diagram of the Raspberry Pi. It is showing the architecture. It having a revision. I think it is a model number 2083, and SoC is the processor user system on chip, that is BCM2837, and it's having 1 GB RAM, that is a sufficient memory, and in the secondary storage is SD card. We are storing the operating system here, and it having a USB, it having 4 USB port and 1 Ethernet port, and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity are available. Then it having a camera port and a display port. Along with that, it having 40 input output pin. It is similar to Arduino. And from these 40 pins, we don't want to memorize all the pins, but we need to know the basic pins like 2, 4, and 1, 17. This if we, basically our sensor devices like GPS sensor or temperature sensor or any other kind of sensor, they need some power to work. That may be very small power. It will be less than 5 volt. If we need to give power, we can directly give the power from our Raspberry Pi. This we can use the second and fourth pin. If we need to give 5 volt power to the GPS device, we can connect a jumper cable to the second pin of the Raspberry Pi, and we can take a ground connection to the from the Raspberry Pi to the device. Similarly, if we need a 3.3 volt out, we can choose one first pin or 17th pin of the Raspberry Pi. Along with that, there are several ground pins are available. In addition, one more thing we need to know, this GPIO 14 and 15 pin, that are the general purpose input output 14 and 15th pin, that are the default transmitter and receiver. These are about the pin diagram of the Raspberry Pi. And now the next thing, we can just try to connect some sensor to the Raspberry Pi and collect some data. First I am going to show you some GPS sensor. In GPS sensor, there are 2 modules are available. One is GPS antenna, and the other module is GPS receiver. This is the GPS antenna. This is the GPS antenna for collecting the data, and GPS receiver is here. Here I am connected the GPS receiver to the GPS antenna through this connection, and this is a very basic circuit. We just need to give the power and transmission and reception line. I need to give power from second and third pin. I have taken the power and given to the GPS receiver. Then I have connected the transmission and reception pin of the GPS receiver to the default transmission and reception pin of the Raspberry Pi. Now this is the very simple connection. We just want to check the pin diagram of the GPS receiver only. That configuration I already done in the one Raspberry Pi, and its name is Raspberry Pi 2. Now I want to log in into that Raspberry Pi. I have given IP address 192.168.1.102 for that Raspberry Pi. Its password is Pi. Okay, now it is connected. In that, I have done some code for reading the data. That is a very simple code that may be available from internet and all. You can study what are the output they are giving. That may be giving some set of binary digits, and from that we need to decode the data. The GPS receiver will be giving one time and then longitude and latitude, but it will be in the binary format. We need to decode the data into. We need to identify and decode the data. Here our experiment is saved as exp1 sudo nano. I'm going to open that file. This is the code I have done for that reading purpose. From serial input line, I am reading that entire data, that binary data I will read, and then I will decode the data into some format. And after decoding the data, I am just separating the longitude and latitude, and there will be three information mostly available: time, longitude, and latitude. Here I am taking longitude and latitude only. This is the code I have written. This is a very simple code. There is nothing else. Just reading the data, decode the data, and just print the data. The decode and all, there is already existing functions are available in Python. Okay, now we can just execute that code and test the position of the device. Now it is displaying some position values. Longitude and latitude it is displaying. Suppose if we need to, like IoT, like our sensor device, we need to collect some data. Sometimes we need to log some data. Otherwise, we need to send the collected data to some servers or something. Then we need to, suppose if we need to log the data, we can do like this. We can redirect into here.txt. Now I am going to write the data into a.txt. Maybe it will take some time to write some lines, and now what I'm doing is I'm writing the output of the position values of a device into a.txt value that will be stored inside the Raspberry Pi. Just we can open that a.txt. Now it is written in the file called a.txt. The information is stored. Similarly, we can, if we need to store the position, means if we need to know suppose a vehicle is moving somewhere and we need to store the position of the vehicle, we can create a file and store the data into the device, and we can attach a Raspberry Pi with a GPS sensor. That is enough for finding out the position of the device. Similarly, we can suppose we need to find out some boundary, some devices or some person is crossing some boundary. We can attach similar to this. The next one, I will show you some more complicated circuit. Actually, that is a temperature sensor circuit. For the temperature sensor circuit, there is a LM35 is the temperature sensor. It having 3 pins. One is VCC, other one is Vout, and the other one is ground. For VCC and ground, we know we have to give the positive voltage, and the ground connection we have to give. That we can give from the second and sixth pin of the Raspberry Pi. We can connect it to VCC and ground. Once we give VCC and ground, we will get the output from the LM35 through the middle line, that is Vout. Actually, what LM35 is doing is it is collecting the temperature. Once it detects the temperature, it will convert it to some voltage format. The voltage is it is generating. That voltage is in analog format, and this analog format cannot be interpreted by the Raspberry Pi because the Raspberry Pi is working in digital mode. So we need to convert the data from analog signal to digital signal. For that, we are using a analog to digital converter. This here what I'm going to do is there are in the digital to analog converter having initially 8 pins, CH0 to CH7. One of the means I am going to give the Vout connection to the one of the channel CH1 or CH0 to CH7. Any one of the channel I can connect Vout. Then VDD and Vreference, we have to give the power, the positive power. We have to give a 5 volt to the VDD and Vreference. Then analog and digital ground we have to connect, and Vout is the output generating pin. And from Vout, Dout we have to connect it to the Raspberry Pi. Once we connected, the circuit will be look like that. This is our temperature sensor LM35. I have given 3 pins, and I have connected the sender Vout pin into the channel 1 of the Raspberry into the analog to digital converter, channel 1 of the analog to digital converter. From analog to digital converter, the Dout and other pins are connected to the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi will detect the temperature. Actually, the LM35 temperature sensor will generate a voltage. The voltage will be converted into the analog to digital converter, convert the data in the voltage into a 10-bit binary number that will vary from 0 to 1023. From that 1023, the value will be within 0 and 1023. We need to convert the value, and we have to convert into degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit part we require. Now I already written a code in that node. For that, I have to log in into that Raspberry Pi. Its name is SSH Pi at 192.168.1.1. 101 is the IP address of the Raspberry Pi, and I'm going to log in into that Raspberry Pi. Now I have logged in into the Raspberry Pi. What I required is I have to go to that code. Experiment to no TMB. This is the code. Actually, what we are done is we are connected the output of the device into channel 1. We are reading the data from the channel 1. Then we need to convert it into voltage, and we need to convert it into degrees Celsius. For that, there are some equations are there. I have just written the equation here. there is nothing else. They're just reading the information. Here I have given channel 1, reading the data from channel 1 and just converting it into voltage and temperature. The reading value will be between 0 and 1023 and then converting into temperature and voltage. Then just displaying the data here, just calling function and displaying the data here. And now I will execute and show you that the temperature.
It's coming right now. Okay. Data.
Actually, due to some connection problem, I think now it is showing some error values. I will try in the later in the end of the section. I will try once again. Once we collected similarly, we can connect any kind of sensor devices into our Raspberry Pi, and we can collect the data and store the data into Raspberry Pi. Or if we need to make data sets like we need to prepare a position data, then that kind of things we can do. And if we need to give some alert based on temperature increasing, or somebody is entering to our home, then we need to give some alert. That kind of things we can do using some sensors. There are various sensors are available: temperature sensor, then touch sensor, then GPS sensor, ultrasonic sensors. Any kind of sensors we can connect and collect the data from the our Raspberry Pi. Once we are connected, that we can collect the data and we can share to the net to other devices. What I'm going to discuss is how we can collect the data and Till now, now what we have learned is how we can connect a Raspberry Pi with some sensors, and next what we are going to learn is how we can share the collected information to other devices. Like suppose there's a device need to collect the information and it need to send the data to some server, or if the device need to collect the data and suppose if need to give some alert based on some condition, that everything is based on some sending and receiving message and writing some condition based on some code. For that, first we need to give, now we are taking some interesting network related things, and for that we need to configure some networking. The basic thing we are going to learn what is first how to fix the IP address for the fix a static IP address for our Raspberry Pi. For that we need to edit the interface. If you are directly, we can like our system, we can directly go to the interface of the menu and we can fix, but it will, when it is shut down, it will, everything will be gone. Then for now, what is our purpose is we have to permanently write some IP address, static IP address into our system. For that, I am going to do some configuration in one of the file. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the interface file, and now I am going to edit one file. The file name is dscpcd.conf. I'm going to open in the Nano editor. So the Nano. So the Nano. Then I need to edit the file called dscpcd. .conf. This is a file I have to edit. Here I need to add a static IP address. We can, if we need, we can configure. There are mainly two interfaces are available. One is Ethernet and other one is our wireless interface. For the end of the file, I need to add few lines to fix the static IP address. I already included the line here, but it is commented. The first line is indicating the wireless LAN. Now we are going to edit the wireless LAN interface. This is the WL LAN indicating wireless LAN. This we can get from if config. We can check if config. Here we can see this is the our wireless LAN port is wireless LAN is interface is represented as VLAN 0, and the Ethernet interface is represented as ETH0. These are the two interfaces. The other one is local loop, that is not useful now. We are not using now. Okay, this is now what we are going to do is we are going to edit the VLAN 0, means wireless interface we are going to edit. Then I'm going to give a static IP address. This is the static IP address I have selected, 192.168.1.110. That must be within the range of our router. Then the static IP address I have given. Then my router IDs. Now all the communication we are doing is infrastructure mode. Means every communication is going through a BSS or a router. The router IP address is on 192.168.1.1. Here you can see this. The same IP address I have given to domain name servers. That is also the same IP address as the as our router's IP address. Now, for reflecting the change in our Raspberry Pi, we need to go for a reboot. Now the system is rebooting, and once it is opening, when it is restarting, that IP address will be fixed, and then once the IP address will fix, then we can go for communication between the device. In this slide you can see I have fixed the two IP address 1.1 and 1.2 for two devices. There are two devices I already configured. Pi 1 I have given 192.168.1.101, and the other one I have given 192.168.1.2. These are the two nodes. This is 1.2. This is the node I configured with the IP address 1.2, and this is the node I have configured with the 1.1. We can just check what we done is reflected in the operating system or not. For that, first I'm going to check the if config. If config. Here we are. This is the VLAN, wireless LAN, and the IP address we have given is 192.168.1.10, and we can check the file also. The IP address we have given is 1.10, and it is reflected in the operating system. Now we can just ping. If we want, we can just ping to one of our device. Our device configured 192.168.1.101. Now it is reachable. Actually, we can use ping command for checking the connectivity of the network. Now it is working. Now what I'm going to do is I can enter into one of the system, and I will ping from one device to other device, similar to this. Actually, I am going to take two terminals. One for I am going to SSH into both the device. One is 101 and other one is 102. Pi at 192.168.1.101 is our first node. And now I am going to take one more terminal, and I am going to SSH into that terminal. Into the other node, its IP address is 102. SSH Pi at 192.168.1.102. Okay, now we log into both the systems, and now I'm going to try to ping from one system to the other. Ping. Now we are standing in the node 101, and I need to ping to other node 192.168.1.102. Yes, it is reachable. Actually, this is showing some information. This is sending a sequence of the ICMP message, and then time to leave, and then the time taken, RTT time taken also it is showing. And from second node, we can try to ping to the first node. From second node to first node, we are pinging, and that is also working. Now what we can do is we can just go for some basic socket programming. The socket programming is very simple, and we can just do some socket programming using UDP socket programming. I'm going to use. I have written some code for the basic code for some small piece of code for sending message and receiving message. I will show you the code. This is the code I have written in the one node, and I have written one more in the other node also. I have written some code. These are the two codes I have written into different pies. In the here you can see this is very basic code. I have defined a sender function and a receiver function. In the sender function, I have created a socket and bind the socket, and then just sending a message. Hey, it is me 101. 101 is sending message. Hey, it is 101. The receiver, the sender is sending to the destination 192.168.102. This is the destination he is sending. Then in the receiver module, I'm just receiving the message from, actually just listening, binding and listening to the receiver port, and it will receive the message and it will display. That very simple code only I have written, and I am going to execute this code. Similarly, here also in the second node also I have written a very simple code. This is first initially we are creating socket and then it is binding. And here what is the message? This is 102. This is the message. In this node ID is ending with 102. That's why it is given. This is 102, and the destination is 101. This is the destination. It's sending the message. Now I'm going to execute this code. Now one node is sending and the other node is receiving the message. This is just a UDP program. This is nothing more than that. This is very simple code. And next thing what I have said is initially we read some data from our sensor devices, and we need to send the collected data to, sometimes we need to send the collected data to server or some other places, or sometimes we need to give some alert to the other devices. That time what we need to do is we can use the same thing. Now I will show you once again. I have written one more code and I will show you. I'm opening similar to the previous one. I am opening two terminals. One is for 1.1 and the other one is for 1.2. This is the first node, that is 1.1. Okay, similarly, I'm going to log in into the next node also. The second node called SSH. Okay, I'm going to log in into the second node, pi at 192.168.1.102 is our node ID. Then pi is the password. And now this is also login, and I will show you the code. That is just like previous one. I merged the two codes, just merging the two codes. Previously, we saw that there are some function for reading GPS interface. Previously, the first sensor connectivity portion, I have said these things. Here I am just reading the position information from the GPS sensor, and this is the function for reading the GPS information, the position information. Then I have similar to the previous example, I have written a sender and receiver function. The sender function is sending my position. Sender function just sending my position. That is the message it is sending. Then he is attaching the position information, position x and y, longitude and latitude it is attaching. Then it is sending, and the receiving module is waiting to receive the acknowledgement from the receiver. Similarly, I have written one code here. Nothing special here actually. CD is here I have just written some sender and receiver functions only. Once it receives the message, it will send like I received your position, and then it will receive function. It will receive the data from data, and it will show it is the he's received something. Then I am going to execute this file. Actually, here 101 not having any role. He's just listening to the port, and he's just displaying the position. And C3. This is our sender. He is going to send the position value to its neighbor, XP3. This node ID is 102. Now this node is sending its position, and the other node is receiving the position. We can see here this 102 is sending the position information, and 101 is receiving the information. Similarly, we can collect the information from any of the sensor, any Raspberry Pi or any kind of computing device can collect the information from the sensor, and it can communicate to the server, or suppose if the house owner need the information, like somebody is entering into his home, he need to get information, then he can set some ultrasonic sensor or some kind of sensor there, and he can get the information using this kind of application. The device will just send the data, and it will send. If we need to write some condition like temperature is increasing more than a level, we can just fix some temperature level. Suppose 30 more, it is increasing more than 30. If we need to send a message, we can send the message. Similarly, we can do like if we need to periodically store the data, that also we can do. If we need to send event based, suppose some accidents happening, we need to send message, then that kind of things also we can do. Similarly, any kind of sensor device we can connect into Raspberry Pis, and we can communicate to the other node. Till now, what we discussed is written here. We are just connected two nodes and exchanging the information between these two nodes. Well, this is everything we have done through infrastructure node. And infrastructure node means there will be some connectivity. The router will be there, and set of one or more device will be there. Everything will be connected to the BSS. Similarly, in home automation and all, there will be some router, and every sensor device will collect and send the data between each other to the BSS. And this kind of application we can done easily. And in infrastructure mode, everywhere there will be a sender node, means a BSS or a router will be there. He is playing a major role there. He is doing something there. And now we are going to look at some more interesting topic, that is ad hoc mode. Till now, what we learned is there is an intermediate router is there. He is playing a major role there. But from here, there is no role of router. We are going to remove this router from the network, and every node is capable of receiving and sending and creating their own transmission range. Now I'm going to unplug this router. From now, this BSS is not, our router is not having any major node. Now what I'm going to do is I already configured a node. Now I'm going to remove these infrastructure nodes, and I have already installed a OS into this device, and I'm going to connect this device. I already installed a OS, and the memory card is inserted inside this. I'm going to plug all the cables. What I'm going to do is I am just going to configure this normal Raspberry Pi into ad hoc mode. This is once we are done that, this node can create its own transmission range, and it can communicate it to other device. Now it is switched on. In this ad hoc mode, every devices will play two roles. One is it will act as an end device, and the other role is it can act as a router. Okay, now our operating system is ready. It is just like the just installed OS, and what I am going to do is I'm going to check the if config. It's having two interfaces, Ethernet and wireless LAN is there. What I'm going to do is I have to change the mode of this wireless LAN into ad hoc mode. For that, first we need to check what is the current mode of that node. I think you can see it here. This is currently in a managed mode. This is now it is in the managed mode. Now after we are configuring, this node will become in a ad hoc mode. For that, we need to edit the interface file of the wireless LAN. Now I will show you the interface file of this LAN. For that, I need to go to the network. CD. No, I will directly open that. Sudo nano. First, I'm going to the folder etc. Inside that, there are network is there. Network. Inside the network, there is a file called interfaces. I'm going to open this file. This is the file we are going to edit. We need to add now there are 6 lines only available here. We need to add some more lines with some more configuration to this this file, and we will convert this normal node into a ad hoc node. Okay, let's start. We can just do that. Actually, I already done this code in my system. I have copied that into this Raspberry Pi. Okay, here is the code that is stored in root folder. Actually, previously we saw this many lines only. Now I am going to add few more lines. First line is auto yellow, that is indicating the loop back yellow. Normal loop back, and there is nothing we are going to do. The normal loop back actors from 2127 series we are using. Then the we are describing about the Ethernet cable, Ethernet port, Ethernet interface we are going to do. Just we are going to take DHCP configuration. Then we can dynamically assign the IP address. But in the wireless LAN, what we are going to do is we are going to fix a static IP here. For that, we are written like this: WLAN 0 inlet static, and then I am specifying the address here. I am giving 10.1.1.5. This is the static IP address of the ad hoc node. Now this is the subnet mask, net mask of the device of the network IP address, and then now in our wireless LAN, there is wireless interface that it can use 802.11n is placed inside the Raspberry Pi. So in that, I think there are 0 to 11 channels are there. From that, any one channel we can use. Here I am using channel number 5, and the next one is wireless SSID. SSID means you can see here, if we need to connect it to the some network, there will be some ID will be there. SSID is the name of the Wi-Fi. We need to give the SSID. Here we are giving a name called ad hoc net. Suppose if you are configuring n number of nodes, this SSID of the nodes must be same. Then only it will be connected to the same network. Otherwise, it is difficult. The name of the SSID will be same for all the devices. And we are experimenting the device. We need to fix the same name for all the device. And then what we need to do is we have to change the mode of the device from wireless normal. Initially it was in managed mode. Now I need to change from managed mode to ad hoc mode, that I have written here. Now what I am going to do is I want to overwrite the file saved in network field. For that I am going to use Control-O. Then it will ask to save file. Then I will type etc/ the file is saved in network, then network/interfaces. Here I need to save this interface file. Then it is asking save file under different name. Yes, I need to save in different name. Actually, there existing a interface file. That's why it is asking if you need to overwrite or not. Actually, I need to overwrite the file with the new one. Okay, now we can check that previous one is overwritten or not. Yeah, now it is overwritten. Once we have done this much, then what we need to do is we have to reboot our device. In previous time also I said, once we have done some changes, it will be reflected after a reboot. So I am going to reboot this system. After rebooting, we will check again which is converted into ad hoc mode or not. If it is not changed, it will not be useful. So after changing the mode, we will check the device properly, the static IP is fixed or not. Then its mode is changed to ad hoc. Now this device is restarting. Once the OS is open, then we can directly use the if config and IW config command to check the configuration. From that, we can understand it is in which mode it is working. Similar to this, I already configured two more nodes. One is 10.1.10, and the other one more node I have configured is Raspberry Pi 3, that is IP address 1.1, and that is also in ad hoc mode. There are two devices. One is in two devices are in ad hoc mode. One node IP address is 10.1.1.10. The other one's IP address is 10.1.1. Then now the current one we have given IP address 10.1.5. Okay, now what we need to check is what the configuration we made is reflected or not. For that, I am first going to if config. Click from there, we can check the IP address. The IP address is changed here. We can see wireless LAN option is here, and the IP address is changed to 10.1.1.5. The IP address is fixed. Now our requirement is we need to check it is changed to ad hoc mode or not. For that, we can use iwconfig. Now here you can see ad hoc mode. That node is changed into ad hoc mode. Here the node changed to ad hoc mode, and it's ad hoc network. It's SSID is fixed as ad hoc network. Similarly, we configure two more nodes, and both the nodes are named as ad hoc network, and the IP address given is 10.1.1 and the other one is 1.10. Now we can just try to ping, for checking the connectivity, we can just ping to the other node. Now there is no BSS in between the devices, so the device itself creating some transmission range, and the device can communicate to any other node within its transmission range in the same network. Same network in the sense, same IP address. The IP address must be in the same range, and it must be using the SSID also same. I'm going to ping into the first node. That is working. Now I will try to ping into the other node. Ten is the IP address for the other node. Both are ping is working. Now what we need to do is we need to go inside the inside each device, and we need to run some programs. Okay, for that I'm going to SSH. Actually, this is a now what we are seeing is a ad hoc node, and I'm going to SSH into the other node. SSH 5 at 10.1.1.1. Its password also 5. That is connected. Then that is the first node we are showing. That is the first node. Now we are going to log in into the other node, the second node. That's IP address is 10. SSH 5 10.1.1.10. Its password is 5. As now it is logged into both the devices, and I have just written a code that is similar to the previous one, just UDP socket programming. With we all know the socket programming. That is the now I have written in Python, and I will open it. I have saved that file in desktop. Okay, this is the file in the node number 10, and here I have written two modules. One is sender. Here it is sending, hey, it is me ad hoc 10, and then in the receiving module, it is receiving some listening the socket, and it is listening the program. It is very simple. Actually, this is also I have written in written as Daemon process. It will work in the background. And similarly, here also in the first node also I have written some program. Same program I have written here also. Here just message only changing. Here also there are two modules. One is sender and the other one is receiver. Hey, it is me ad hoc 101. Okay, then the receiver, it is listening and receiving the message from the other node. Here it is sending to the destination 110. Here it is sending to the destination 110. This is the difference. Hey, it is me 101, 101, so 01, and hey, it is me 10. These are two nodes, and then it is sending to 10, and here from here it is sending to 1. Now we can just execute this code. This is just a socket programming, nothing else is there. It just starts sending the message. Now we didn't start the second nodes. No. We continuously sending, and the other node I am going to execute Python exp4. Now it is receiving. Here you can see the node is receiving. Both the nodes are sending and receiving, both the role they are doing. Similarly, we can collect, means if in MANET like network, like MANET is a very popular and famous network now. Similarly, FANET also there, MANET also there. These kind of devices are doing the same thing. We can configure ad hoc mode and fix it in vehicle or anywhere, and the devices attached to the devices will collect the information. In the case of VANET, it will collect the information from the road, like accidents and other kind of things. It will collect, and it will send to this. Similarly, here you can see a configuration we have done for VANET experiments. Here we are attached accelerometer and GPS sensor to the device, to the Raspberry Pi, and it can collect and send data to other nodes. If some accidents or something happen, it will share the information with other nodes using ad hoc mode, ad hoc communication. The vehicle will create a transmission range, and it will communicate to other nodes. This we can do using this network. Similarly, this infrastructure and the ad hoc mode is very useful, and the future networks are following this kind of communication, device to device, and this infrastructure communication. You can configure the network based on your needs, and you can do your experiments. Similarly, one more thing I can show you. In ad hoc mode, one specialty is, suppose we have five nodes, and I have connected, one is connected to 2 and 2 is connected to 3. Suppose 2 having some data, 3 having, node number 3 having some data, I need to access the terminal of the node number 3, but node number 1 does not have a direct communication with 3, but it can connect it through node number 2. Then what we can do is we can SSH and enter, or ping and we enter. Now I will show you here this node IP address is this node is 105. I'm going to SSH into the other node called other node, SSH pi at 10.1.1.1. Its password is pi. Okay. Here the configuration I will check. If config. I can see here its IP address is 1.1. That means we are standing in the first node terminal. Now from here I can enter into other nodes terminal, SSH pi at the next node IP address is 110.1.1.10. Yes. First time it is entering, that's why it is asking you to really want to enter or not. Then its password is pi. Actually, what we have done is chain. It is like a chain. First, I log in, access the terminal of the node number 1, and from that terminal, I access the terminal of the next node. Similarly, like a chain, if the node is connected to some portion of the network, we can access from the other end. Similarly, this can be done. We can collect the data, or we can inform the information. This is just like a passing message. We can just send if we don't have a direct connection to the other node. We can means like propagating things. Means we will say something to others, and then others will say the message to other one. Similarly, we can propagate. It is previously used in some soldiers to exchange the message. This allowed the demonstration session of our session, and I'm going to complete. I'm going to stop it here. I think you got some kind of some information, and you can do some kind of real-time experiment. And if you have any questions, you can ask me now. And if I can answer now, I will do it. If I cannot answer now, I will send you mail.
I did over to you for any clarifications.
We can go to something stop. No, sir. We need to put the application. Stop sharing.
Participants can unmute themselves and just ask your questions if you have any, or you can just put it in the chat box.
Chat box, we can see that it is not question very nice.
Sir, there was this one question in the chat box I'm seeing, that is like by Dr. R. Ramachandran. He was asking whether if the sensor position is changed, whether the value will also. I think that was answered in the presentation itself, I think, isn't it?
So actually what is happening is now we are just placed the GPS here. That's why it is not changing the position. Most of them the time it is showing the same position. If we are moving, suppose we are attaching to some car or some other kind of device, suppose we are handing and walking, then that time it will change the position. Means based on the accuracy of the GPS device, it will change the position.
There is another one, like, can you name the Raspberry Pi OS?
Actually, the name of the OS is Raspberry Pi OS. Actually, from their site, www.raspberrypi.com, their site, you can see that Raspberry Pi OS. The latest version you can download from there. Initially, it was known as Raspbian OS, but currently they renamed as Raspberry Pi OS. Its name is Raspberry Pi OS, but different versions are available nowadays. They are every year. Means many number of users are coming. That's why they are developing. Means every year they are updating the OS, and their hardware also, they are adding more features into their hardware. That's why every year they are improving their OS, and they are releasing. Some release number is different, but the OS name is same, Raspberry Pi OS. Like Ubuntu also, they are providing some OS like Ubuntu Core or something that also we can install. Similarly, we can install Windows OS like Windows 96 or something we can install, and we can play games, previous games also we can play.
Yeah, and we have this question from Ms. R. Hemalata. For ad hoc communication, what would be the required distance of separation between the nodes for effective communication?
Effective communication, actually, the node can, based on the interface we are using. suppose we are using 802.B, G or N, that will be the maximum communication range within 100 meters. That will be very less. For WANET communication, they are defining one more interface. 802.11p standard is there. It is providing a large coverage, means it is providing large coverage, like 802.11p is providing 300 meter to 1000 meter range. That is depends.
Okay, I hope that answers the question. If anybody else having any other queries? You can also unmute yourself and directly speak.
If
Yeah.
no doubts, I think yes.
Yeah.
Like we thank Arun Raj Kumar sir and I think scholar Sarath Babu for excellent demonstration. And we thank you again. And yes, Nikeshan, you can try.
Yeah. Today we call it a day. So we have completed all the sessions for the day, and thanks Dr. Rajendra Raj Kumar sir for this wonderful session. Basically 2 sessions. I'm very sure that the participants have got a basic idea of sensors and the protocols in the earlier session. And now afternoon, with the help of research scholar, Sharath Babu sir, it was really an eye opener for most of us. So thanks a lot, Dr. Arun sir and Sharath Babu sir.
Thanks, sir.
So the for the participants, this is like we have just pasted the attendance link. You can just mark your attendance as also, and also give your feedback on this. So our daily thing will be like morning 10 o'clock. We already got the schedule. It is from 10 o'clock it starts. So the session tomorrow at we'll be starting the sessions at around 10 a.m. Okay, so we'll try to keep the timings as strict as possible. So we'll meet tomorrow. Okay, so thanks once again, all of you.
Yeah, thank you, Arun sir.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Sarath.
Okay, thanks, sir.